Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 3, Episode 2 of Doom Patrol. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have the whole situation with the Brotherhood of Evil planning, obviously it's like Niles has been a thorn in their side and is right to protect the organization, the future of the Brotherhood of Evil, the Brain, and Gorilla Dude, who I was under the impression was Gorilla Grodd, but someone corrected me at the time of yeah, that's not Gorilla Grodd. Once again, I said it at the time, and I just, any time I see a talking gorilla, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be Grodd, because he's the only talking gorilla I knew, but it's well, to be fair, that's not the case, because of the Flash, I should know better, but regardless, because obviously, Gorilla City exists and everything like that, it's tangents and all that aside. Oh, he's more of a psychic. Well, I think at some stuff he actually just straight up talks. He doesn't have to just be a psychic monkey to talk. Regardless, I'm going on a tangent. But they bring in Garguax, the Decimator, and specifically his target is Rita. And I'm like, what? Why? That's what I was like. Because I was so confused at first. I was like, could it be Michelle Gomez's character just looking like Rita? That's what I was wondering what that was about. Because it also ties into the point I brought up last episode where I was like, why did Niles leave the key to Rita out of anybody? Why her specifically? I was like, yeah, she's made progress, but she's just as jacked up as anyone else, so why her specifically? Once again, you think Cyborg, who embraces the whole hero thing, it would have been him. So I think I got answers to that at the end of it, based on the end of the episode, but I'll get to that soon enough. But I think that kind of answers all those questions potentially. But poor Garguax. I love that, once again, just the weirdness of how we just embrace everything in this universe. It's just he walks in and everyone's just looking at him, and he sits down because he goes to this mountain resort or whatever, and he's there, waiting. He's on standby until they get the signal, and so he's just sitting there, and he cracks a joke with the life insurance guy that's nearby him, and Samuelson had to translate it for him. It's oh, pull your head out your ass, and it's oh, ha ha ha, and just, but that guy's the only one laughing, and I expected everyone to kind of join in, but it's I guess, because what we see is he's been there since 49, and so it's been here for decades, 70-ish years. It's right. There's an interesting parallel that can be drawn between him and the actual, our current Doom Patrol, our band of misfits. Because initially it's day in and day out, and it's just growing kind of blah, until they find out, oh man, the Brotherhood of Evil is done. They found out partway through everything, oh, the Brotherhood of Evil is done. Niles Coulter and his Doom Patrol won. So it's kind of right, everything fell apart. We're fighting for the Brotherhood of Evil, and it doesn't exist anymore. That's already been so it's well, what's the point? Let's just and he stays there, and it's just kind of day in and day out. And from what we've seen, I guess maybe people got freaked out with him being there, or maybe just people just abandoned the place in general because he just made it his home and he just stayed there. Just once again, how the Doom Patrol just sulked and stayed in Doom Manor all these decades. Same thing applies to him at this resort. Rita finds out it's right, she's just kind of eating her pain away, and then it's oh wait, there's some stuff going down, and it's right, she's thinking about Niles' final words. It's right, I'm failing again, so she starts gooing up, and so she just sits in a pot and just stays, she removes the plant tree or whatever from the potted plant and just sits, goos out in there, and just kind of well, here we are. And then you have Vic dealing with his circumstances that get shut down because they found out that he was helping Ronnie, and then because of that, Star Lab was kind of whether that was 100% Star Lab's decision or whether they were more so forced to do it. It's yeah, a well-known superhero is helping a villain who's up here doing some, killing and stuff, so it's right. And which his dad, it's oh, because he's Vic's oh, I'm just Cyborg too. He's don't even start, I'm doing everything I can to help you. Don't cause more of an issue. Lay low. So he's kind of been taking offline, kind of his own choices and everything. So I had to use a freaking flip phone, which I haven't used since middle school, just to contact him. So Then you have Cliff dealing with his issue, which he's not facing, which his daughter Clara is kind of like, which I love that whole conversation of just kind of like, that's got to be weird to kind of get like acclimated to that. So once again, it's the DC universe, just because at least in some regards, it's kind of like, oh, like present day, they're just kind of like, they saw Cliff or something. It's like, oh, it's like cosplay or something like that. That's what that gets lapped up to. But it's like, nah, it's just like, like Clara's wife having to get used to it. It's just like, I mean, I like him being around and everything, but he's like, but the thing is, Cliff is trying to, like, because he doesn't know how much time he has left, he is kind of worried, and so he is trying to make up for like decades of not being there in Clara's life, and trying to make up for it with Rory, which I'm like, oh, that name's getting tossed around left and right. There's already a Mick Rory, Heatwave, and then there's Rory and Aurora and Lucifer. So interesting timing for the name, but it's like, Clara's like, yeah, he's just trying to, make up for lost time and stuff like that. But then he gets out in the yard and he kind of gets stuck. He's like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, are you okay? Because she starts recognizing like his shaking hand. It's like, right, like, her wife's like, grandma like had it. And it's like, it's Parkinson. He's like, yeah, but Parkinson's can happen to a human, not a robot. It's like, yeah, but what about a robot with a human brain? Because I'd assume because it's part of motor, like Parkinson's kind of attacks. Like, I think, once again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not well versed in that, but I think it attacks the motor functions, don't it? So like, I think that is all stemmed from the brain. So like, if that is what's happening here, it would make sense, But like, Cliff is kind of in denial, being like, no. But even then, it's just like, he doesn't want to like check it out, because he ends up saying it later on, like, what's the point of checking it out? The one person who could do something about it is gone. So, and if knowing's not going to do anything, because me knowing about it just going to make me know about it, and I can do absolutely nothing about it, most likely. So there's that situation. Larry seemed like he was in the better of the situations until, like, he goes to like the negative spirits home, and then they're together, and then like, it's like, right, he's got his flesh back and everything, but then like the negative spirits in front of him manifesting as how he looks now as Larry, with his skin being what it is, him being full of radiation. And Larry touches it and ends up like turning back, and the negative spirit just kind of points to him, and the moment Larry kind of snaps out of it, like, he's back in Doom Manor, and the negative spirit, either it's laying dormant inside of him, because like, if it was actually like, he's like, what was that, like, negative spirit release? But it's like, is it like is it inside of him enough to still keep him going with that? Because like, the whole point is, if they stay separated for too long, Larry's going to die. So it might have left enough of a charge inside of him to keep him alive, and just stayed home, or what. But for Larry, it's like, I thought we were in this together, and I thought we were one, but I thought we were past like the bandages and needing the special suits. But it's like, I'm right back at it. And not only that, I don't like, we had our issues, but we finally became one, and now it's like, no, I'm back to just me and all this. Like, he was trying to take that step forward, and it just feels like he got knocked back about 15 steps. So the team ultimately decided to go on vacation. It was kind of Rita's thought, but it was the secretary that set that all up. But then it's like, well, what about Jane? Does she want to go on vacation? And Kay's the one that actually suggested it, which that kind of throws Jane for a loop. It's kind of like, nah, you need to, because like, Kay's actually viewing out. She's like, oh, cool. Like, I think this is our first time ever really like looking out, because it's like, even Jane's like, I didn't even know you knew about this place. It's like, yeah, she's just like, I want to see, she's not going topside herself, but it gives her a layer of protection of like, she doesn't have to go to the like surface, like she doesn't have to take over the body, but it's like, oh, I get to like, embrace and enjoy like being able to see things for the first time, because she's just kind of always stayed away from that. And I think that speaks volumes, because you're seeing her like walking out and about, like that's never been the case. She's always just been in solitude, like away from the others. Like the whole job is like, in particular, it's Jane's job to protect her. And I think that's such an interesting thing too for Jane. It's like, yeah, like, I'm supposed to protect Kay and look after her. It's not supposed to be the other way around, because it's like it's weird. It's like, the whole reason why the underground exists, the reason why all these personalities exist, is each one plays their own role in representing something for Kay. And it's like, Jane is supposed to be that primary, supposed to fill that role of being like her main protector. And it's like, for her to be looking after me, it's like everything's kind of back asswards now, And so it is the thing of, because it makes sense, I think, because Kay realizes like, right, Niles is dead. Like, how do you feel about it? She's like, no, I'm fine. But it's like, Jane, the reason why Kay's looking after her like that is because Kay realizes, like, amongst all the personalities, like, they've all had some interactions with Niles, but Jane's the only one that had this special connection with him. So it's like, she realizes, like, Jane needs time to kind of really process things. It's like none of them are really fully processing it. They're dealing with it all in their own right. A lot of them are just trying to overcompensate by pretending like it's like, yeah, like, I mean, they all sign on for the vacation and everything. They go and get Cliff, and they end up going to the same resort that Garguax is at. So there's that whole backbone that Cliff wants to climb. I love it. It's like, yeah, Nixon went up there and apparently came back down, and then he resigned. So that was interesting. There's no Wi-Fi. There's a phone that costs like $2.99 a minute here. The place is just run down. Rita's still stuck in her, I guess you could say, putty form. But for her, it's like, because she's in the middle of a free fall identity crisis, because it's like, right, I failed as Rita. I failed as the beekeeper. I failed as, like, Gertrude never actually had a chance. And it's like, wait, who's the beekeeper? It's like, my another failed, like, it was her attempt at trying to be a hero, give her, like, another, like, every quote-unquote role she's ever played, it just is all kind of backfired, and I think it's finally taking its toll on her. Because I had brought it up last episode that her and Larry were always the ones that's like, right, let's not do anything. We're the ones that we stay out of things. But Rita, like, shifted that. She tried to turn that corner a little bit faster than Larry did. And her attempt to do that was the beekeeper, and that kind of blew up in her face. So she's like, I want to go back to doing nothing. Because that ends up being the conversations about, like, between everybody. Obviously, Cliff is telling, Vic, like, yeah, you love Ronnie, that's why you're doing it. He's like, no, I don't love her. I just think she deserves a second chance. Because you love her. And he's like, no, just shut up. Because for him, it's like, I'm cyborg. Like, without my tech and everything, like, what am I? And it's like, you're like, your mechanical parts aren't all there are to you. It's like, you are more than that. Like, they're just mechanical parts, like, essentially saying you are you. Like, and kind of don't forget that. He's like, take my word for it. I guess because, like, for Cliff, it's like, regardless of all the tech that's a part of you, you are still human at heart. You are still you at heart. Like, he's like, I would know better than anyone. Most of me is mechanical. You still got that human heart of yours. Like, don't kind of, like, lose sight of that. Which, obviously, because it's everyone, including Clara, but even Vic telling him, like, to get things checked out, but he doesn't want to. Once again, and none of them have really opened up about their respective situations. So, obviously, like, Cliff runs into Garguax in the sauna and everything. It's like, yeah, it's like, right, you're on top of the world. He's like, yeah, I was basically a piece of shit, but I was, like, the best piece of shit there ever was. And then my life, it's just like, boom, like, both of them are like that. Like, yeah, we were at the top of our games, being young, and then, like, yeah, just kind of all blew up, and it's just like, you find out, like, life is the way it is, so you kind of just say fuck it. And then just like, oh, that fucking Niles Coulter. It's like, wait, that fucking guy. And it's like, they bond over it. I love it. It's like, oh, hey, Cliff, hey, Garg. It's like, wait, he called himself the Decimator. It's like, and then, it's like, I love that, because everyone else is kind of like, oh, like, chill about it. It's like, maybe he's a supervillain, is what, like, Vic's going about. But it's like, Cliff's like, him? Nah, he's a good guy. He's a great guy. No way. He's my bud. He's my pal. And even, like, Jane's kind of like, don't go all superhero mode right now. You don't need to. It's fine. Like, he's probably, like, retired or something like that. At first, she was like, maybe it's just one of those dumb nicknames he gives himself. I love that it's like, Sunboard's like, yeah, you're right. He probably gave that to himself when he went into Dartmouth. Rita's all about letting it go, but Vic doesn't, because he has to put, he is the hero. Because amongst everyone, he went into this being, because, I mean, to be fair, like, that's kind of how he's always identified himself. Like, he's taken pride in it, and he's embraced that more than the others. The others are just kind of like, we're screw-ups. We're not heroes. Like, why can't, like, it's like, why are you trying to change us? Like, it's because he's always seen the potential that, like, you guys could be, heroes. Like, since day one of showing up at the manor, he's been doing that. But even more so because, like, being a hero defines him. And now that, like, the cyborg side of things, if it's stripped away, he's just kind of Vic. Interesting timing, because obviously, like, that was a conversation with Tim this week's episode of, like, Titans and everything too. So like, there's an interesting parallel to kind of be drawn there. But he confronts Gargoyle. It's like, oh, my name is Cyborg. It's like, oh yeah, on our planet, Cyborg means fish fucker. And Samuelson has beef with him, but Gargoyle is like, no, like, they're fine. Like, don't start nothing. It's like, yeah, I love Vic being like, yeah, it's handled. But then like later on, it's like, we got to do something about it. It's like, I thought you said it was handled. It's like, and then obviously Jane has to remind him, we're not a superhero team. Let us just be us. And it's like everyone's situations come out, once again, like Rita being like, I should just go back to not doing anything because it was just another failed attempt role. Like, if I'm going to be here, I might as well be here as myself. I'm like, oh, and she, reconstitutes herself, and I'm like, that's not good because Gargoyle is going to notice you're you, and that's going to be an issue. But then, like, you have Cliff, Vic kind of puts it out there like, right, like, he's having brain issues, and both Rita and Jane are like, wait, what? Are you okay? He's like, I wish everyone stopped asking me. Like, the fact of the matter is, Niles is the one who did this to me, and now he's gone, and he's the only one that potentially could do anything about it, but I'm not going to, like, he's dead, he's worm food. Basically, for him, it's like, me worrying about this is, like, in a weird way, he's internalizing it as almost, like, self-satisfaction for Niles. It's like, it's almost like, if I, like, dive into this, Niles wins, because it's like, he's going to be somewhat, like, the guy I've hated for so long now, like, the guy responsible for shitting on my life. Granted, yes, Cliff did that on his own, but, Niles, like, helped push that along heavily, especially when he was in a position where he was trying to change things. Like, who knows how Cliff's life would have played out if it wasn't for, Niles and his selfish endeavor for immortality to be with his daughter, and so it's like, to have a life with his daughter, he sacrificed Cliff's life with his, so that's why he went through so much trouble to try to mend their relationship. It's like, I think on some level, it's like, right, if I'm in a position where I need him after everything, that's the only outcome Cliff sees happening if he, finds out the truth about everything. And once again, Jane just kind of like, let it be. Like, you want to do the whole hero thing, that's just not us, Because, like, Vic is trying to do the same thing too. Like, he's trying to fill the void, with everything that he's going through, like his trauma, his everything, and he's put it towards being a hero. And now that that's kind of been taken away from him, he's kind of left with that void as well. Once again, all of them are dealing with, this whole Niles thing in their own right. Cliff's just doubling down on the hate. Jane trying to pretend like she's okay. Rita backpedaling and being like, right, I'm just going to go back. Like, I failed because she's like, right, someone needed my help, but when the time came, I ran away like a coward. Like, so it's like, Niles put his faith in me and he shouldn't have, and I let him down. This was kind of like his final wish, and so that's why she's like doubling down on like hating herself, so. And Jane goes to that labyrinth, which I love that, like, right, rather than going to the full cathartic element of it, she just like skips over some like, and just walks to the center, and then like she closes her eyes and opens them and sees Niles' chair, and Kay's looking through the things, and she kind of looks away because she's like, right, she sees what Jane's seeing, and obviously for Jane it just upsets her because like it just sucks because every one of them had a super complicated relationship with him, and it's like, all right, she loved him and hated him, but now it's just like, right, she never actually, never got to see him for a little while, considering everything that was going on at the time in season 2. But on top of that, now he's gone, and it's just like, you have everything. It's like, yeah, even if you hated him, at least having him around to hate, like, you're able to feel something, and just like all of those complex emotions are just like being bottled up, and you're just angry, and you have every right to be. So, and at the end of the day, like, Samuelson's is kind of like, oh my god, we found her, it's time, but like Gargoyle is like, no, let's not. It's like, wait, what? It's like, they're fine, like, you heard Niles is dead, and at the end of the day, like, that woman, she's no threat, she's a wreck, so for him, it's like, I'm not abandoning our mission abandoned us. Like, the fact of the matter is this could be a fresh start for us. Like, for him, this was cathartic because now he could finally let go. Like, that was the whole thing that they're all struggling with. Like, the whole point of this, I think that's going to be the main theme of this season, is kind of letting go. which is interesting. I mean, I think it's always been a little bit of a theme. It's always been about dealing with their past and their traumas, but I think this is it's supposed to be entering that like stage of just kind of being able to finally let go. And that's always the thing I'm never sure of. Like, is it good to let go, or should you hold on to it and just kind of learn to deal with it? Like, but letting go is dealing with it, right? I never know in like this, like from a psychology standpoint, like what is the right way to deal with something, like to face it head on and kind of carry it with you and find a way forward with it, or letting it go is like, I think letting go is the right thing to do. I don't know. What I mean is like that mentally, what's the healthier thing to do? But they're all just kind of like sat around drinking, and it's just like, all right, Forever Young is playing, and then like, Jane, or rather Kay, kind of like starts dancing, and Jane does too, and slowly but surely everyone else joins in. And just as Garguax and Samuelson are leaving, it's like, oh, they get the device goes off. And then Garguax comes in. I'm like, oh, is he going to, like, do something? But he's like, run. It's like, yeah, because he must have told Samuelson, like, no, we regardless of it, like, no, we're moving forward. But Samuelson, it's like, I think that's just supposed to be, like, how they both handled it. Like, Garguax kind of just was going to, like, let it go and just be free for the first time. But Samuelson, it's like, no, we've got to hold on to this. Like, because Garguax is like, they're no longer adherent to Niles any more than we are adherent to the brain. But he's like, no, we're always adherent to the brain. So he couldn't let go. So, and then all of a sudden we see the drill roll up, and I'm like, all right, so I guess that's Michelle Gomez. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then, like, Samuelson proceeds to kill everyone, including Garguax. I was like, and then, like, when Rita was leaving and trying to get out, she saw her. So at first I thought she was going to see Michelle Gomez, but I was like, oh, it was like, wait, is she looking like Rita now? And then she's like, I'm sorry. And then she locks Rita in there, and I'm like, wait, what? And then Rita dies. The entire Doom Patrol is dead. I'm like, well, except for Larry. And I'm like, so that's where I'm like, now this is where my thought is. I was like, because I was like, am I crazy because like season is about time travel? Or was I just assuming because of the settings? I can't remember. I watched the trailer like when it originally came out, so it's been a while. But I was like, what is that then? So I think we are dealing with time travel in a sense of that's why the Brotherhood believed Rita to be an issue, because I think she traveled, like, I think some of the story deals with the Doom Patrol back then. Not the Doom Patrol back then, but the Brotherhood of Evil back then, and they kind of got mixed up in all that. So that's why Rita's such a threat. Like, she needs to be taken care of. But, like, so that's also why I'm assuming, like, she came to Niles and it's like, when the time comes, I'm not going to tell you when, but you need, like, she doesn't want to change too much of the future. Like, history has to stay the same to a certain extent. Like, things have to play out so they're all to get to the point that they're at. So I think for her, it's like, right, I'm going to give that key, this secret I'm going to bestow upon you, Niles. I need you to keep it the entire time. Like, maybe by that time, like, Niles had already done all that he had done in experimenting, or maybe, because like part of me wonders, like, is that what that's supposed to be? Like, is that supposed to be Rita the entire time? Like, Michelle Gomez's character is Rita, but in disguise, trying to point them in the right direction of what to do, because things have to play out a certain way. Because once again, it's like, it is coming full circle, because if it is Rita, because that would also make sense with the shape-shifting, because, like, well, because of her blob feature, she could probably, like, shapeshift, you know, being the Elastic Woman, she can, like, make herself look like anyone. So maybe that's what that's supposed to be. Maybe, you know, and she's just looking like Michelle Gomez to hide her identity. I don't know. Like, maybe she's sending them on a mission because everything has to work out a certain way. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I could be completely wrong about this, but I'm like, that's what it feels like it might be. We'll have to wait and see. There's still one more episode this week that I need to watch next, so I'm really excited to see what happens there. Maybe immediately answer, whether or not my theories are, whether I'm barking up the right tree with my theories in that regard. But we'll have to wait and see. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.